Hello, we are going to complete the 8th grade math midterm review sheet. This includes the Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 3 Lesson 1. What is the solution to the equation? I'm going to start with number 1. Well, first you could see you have to do the distributive property. So we're going to distribute the 2 to the x and the 2 to the negative 3. And what you get is 2 times x is 2x. 2 times a negative 3 is negative 6. And you bring down the 2x minus 6. And when they're exactly alike, this is definitely infinitely many. But just say by mistake you didn't recognize that they were both equal and you decided I'm going to add 6 on each side. And you get 2x equals 2x. Again, they're equal, so you know this is infinitely many. Number 2, solve the equation for the missing variable. First, we do distributive property. The 2 to the x, the 2 to the 2. And on the other side, the 1/3 to the 6x and the 1/3 to the negative 3. So you get 2x. 2 times 2 is 4. You bring down the other x. Equals 1/3 of 6x is 2x. 1/3 of negative 3 is negative 1. Step number 2 is we're going to combine like terms, which is the 2x and the x. So if you have 2x's and you add an x, you get 3x plus 4 equals 2x minus 1. So now I'm going to take the smaller x to the larger x. So that is by inverse operations. I'm going to subtract 2x on each side. And we get 3x's minus 2x is 1x, or x plus 4 equals negative 1. We're going to subtract 4 on each side. And we get x equals negative 1 minus 4 is negative 5. Number 3, John paid Planet Burger Gym $50 membership fee plus $10 per training session. His total for the month was $440. Write an equation that can be used to determine how many training sessions he took for the month. So, he paid a fee. It's an initial fee of $50. It's a one-time fee. And then he pays $10 per session. We don't know how many sessions, so we're going to say x equals the number of sessions. So the equation will be $10 per session, x, plus 50 for the fee, and he paid a total of $440. We have to see how many sessions. We have to solve for x. I'm going to subtract 50 on each side, and I get 10x equals 390. Divide by 10, x equals 39. So John, that's his name, had 39 sessions. So now we have lines A and B are parallel, and F is the transversal. So here's A, here's B, and here is our transversal. It says name a pair of angles that are alternate interior angles. So they're on the inside. It means one on one side of the transversal, one on the other. So I could see 3 is here, and then the 6. So angles 3 and angle 6 are alternate interior angles. And you can also see it by a Z formation. Now there's another set of alternate interior angles, and they are angle 4 and angle 5. And you could see it's a backwards Z. Now, there's something special about alternate interior angles. They are congruent or equal. So just to know that, they're equal in measure or number of degrees. And the same goes for 4 and 5. Because they're alternate interior, they're congruent, they're equal in measure, same number of degrees. Now I'm going to erase this ink for the next part of the question so we can see it better. It says, number 5, based on the figure above, name all the pairs of angles that are corresponding angles. Corresponding means they hold the same position. So if I were to cut the transversal right in the center and pick it up and place it at the bottom, 1 would land on 5, 3 would land on 7, 2 will land on 6, and 4 will land on 8. So they hold the same position. So let's write these angles. Angle 1 and angle 5. They hold the same position. They're corresponding. Angle 3 and angle 7. Angle 2 and angle 6. And angle 4 and angle 8. And because they hold the same position and they're corresponding, I'll add an extra note, they are congruent or they equal in measure. I forgot the letter N. That means angle 1 is equal to angle 5, angle 3 is equal to angle 7, angle 2 is equal to angle 6, and angle 4 is equal to angle 8. What is the value for the constant h in the equation below would result in infinitely many solutions? Infinitely many solutions means both sides are equal. So what do I have to put for h, substitute for h, so that when I do the distributive property, I will get 8x, and then we'll multiply something but in h, they'll give times 9 will give me 18, and h is equal to 2. If I substituted, we could check it out. H is 2. So now, we bring down the 8x plus 18. 2 times 4x is 8x. And 2 times 9 is 18. Infinitely many, they're both equal on both sides. What is the solution to the equation below? Well, there's no distributive property, which is usually our first step. So now I'm going to do combined like terms, the 5x and the plus 2x. That would give you 7x plus 10. On this side, there is no other variable. There's the 7x. I'm bringing it down. But I can combine the constants. A constant is a number without a variable. 6 plus 4 is 10. Exactly alike. So we know it is infinitely many solutions. Next question. In the figure below, the measure of angle 2 is 4x plus 10, and the measure of angle 7 is 2x plus 20. Write an equation that can be used to solve for the missing angles, and then solve the equation. Well, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to substitute these into the angles. Angle 2 is 4x plus 10, and angle 7 is 2x plus 20. Well, now I could see the alternate exterior angles. So I'm going to write that down for myself, because one is on one side of the transversal on top, the other one is at the bottom of the other side of the transversal. They're alternate exterior. They're on the outside. And one thing we know about alternate exterior angles, they're congruent which is equal in measure. And because they're equal, we set them up equal to solve for x. So we know that angle 2 is equal to angle 7. We substitute. Angle 2 is 4x plus 10 equals angle 7 is 2x plus 20. Now we're going to solve for the variable. I'm going to take the smaller to the larger of the variables and by inverse operations. 4x minus 2x is 2x plus 10 equals, this cancels, 20. Now I'm going to subtract 10 on each side. And I get 2x equals 10, divide by 2, and x equals 5. We just solved for x, but let's see how many degrees each angle is, and they should come out equal because they are equal, they're alternate exterior angles. So let's do this in a different color. So let's do this. I'll draw a line. Angle 2 equals 4x plus 10. I'm going to substitute the 5 into the x. Angle 2 is equal to 4 times 5 plus 10. Angle 2 equals 4 times 5 is 20 plus 10. Angle 2 equals 30 degrees. Okay, that's that answer. Let's do angle 7. Angle 7 equals 2x plus 20. Angle 7 equals 2 times 5 plus 20. 2 times 5 is 10 plus 20. Angle 7 equals 30 degrees. And that's right, because they're alternate exterior angles, they're congruent, equal in measure, they both should equal the same number of degrees. Solve for x. The first step we have here is the distributive property. So we're going to distribute the negative 2 to the 3x and to the positive 5. Negative 2 times 3x is negative 6x. Negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. Bring down the 10x. We're not ready for it. We get 10x plus 14. Now we're going to combine like terms. So I have a negative 6x and a positive 10x. Negative 6 plus 10 gives me 4x minus 10 equals 10x plus 14. Now I'm going to subtract 4x on each side. And I get negative 10 equals 6x plus 14. Subtract the 14. Negative 10 minus 14 is minus 24 equals 6x. Divide by 6. And x equals negative 24 divided by a positive 6 is negative 4. Number 10. Label each equation as linear or nonlinear. In order to identify a linear, a line, the variable of x must have an exponent of 1. Nonlinear, it must have an exponent greater than 1. So let's do our distributive property on our first one. Y equals 2x. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. Look at the variable of x. It has an exponent of 1. It's understood. So this is linear. Now I'm going to evaluate this. 5 squared is 25 minus 4x. I look at the x. This is also linear because the x has an exponent of 1. Looking at the next one, I see an x squared and I see a 4x. You look at the x squared. See which x has the highest exponent. The minute you see a square, this is non-linear. Because this has an exponent greater than 1. Exponent greater than 1. This one here is also linear, but you're like, wait, there's a fraction. in algebra, if it has a common denominator, you put it over the common denominator. I'm going to break this up. There's a 1 in front of the x. Every variable, the coefficient is 1. So this is 1/5 x plus 1/5. Again, x has the exponent of 1, so it's linear. Has an exponent of 1. This is also exponent of 1. I'm going to abbreviate. Okay, let's go to the next one, number 11. Okay, I'm going to change the view of this. 1 second, let me do that for us. So we could see the whole question. And it says to us, classify each trend line as good or bad fit for the data in each scatter plot. Well, a trend line is a line that goes through the center of the data. So if we look at the first one, it's pretty much through the center. It's a positive trend line. It's a line. It's linear. This is a good one. The next one, if you're going from left to right, the dots are really increasing. It should go right through the center. So this one is not correct. So this is bad, because this is not the right trend line. I'm going to erase that trend line that I drew. See, it's also bad. It's not going through the center of the data. It's a decreasing line from left to right, but the trend, the points are going from left to right, increasing. It should be a positive. This is not good. So this is bad. It should go through the center of the data. This one might confuse you. This is the misconception. This one is bad also because it does not go through the center of the data. So A is the good one. Okay, it says find the slope and the y-intercept of the linear equation. Well, this is in the form of y, or the slope is m, and the y-intercept is your b. So I like to do this, right? Y equals mx plus b, the equation of a line in slope-intercept form. Now I can identify my slope. It's 5/3. It lines up with the m. And the b is -14. Excuse me, I think I skipped one. Okay, that's right. All right. Find the slope of the line that passes through the points -7, 4, and 5, 10. When you have two sets of coordinate points, you have to use the slope formula, which is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Your best bet is label your coordinate points. x1, y1 means it's your first set of coordinates. x2, y2 is your second set of coordinates. Now we're going to substitute. y2 is 10. 10 minus 4 over x2 is 5 minus x1 is a -7. Now, we're going to do the operation. Just want to change my color. 10 minus 6 is 4. I'm sorry, 10 minus 4 is 6 over, when you have two negatives, a negative times a negative is a positive. 5 plus 7 is 12. You could leave the slope like this, but it really can be simplified and reduced. It can be reduced by 6, so I get 1/2. So my slope is 1/2. Right, the equation of a line has a slope of 9. All right, that slope is m. And the y-intercept, my b, of negative 8. I write y equals mx plus b because that's slope-intercept form, equation of a line. Now I substitute. My m is 9 and my b is negative 8. And there's your answer. Y equals 9x minus 8. Write an equation that represents the line shown on the coordinate grid. Well, the two components of an equation of the line are your m, which is your slope, and your b, which is your y-intercept, or the starting point on the graph. Well, I like to do my b first. It's easy. There we go. It's where does the line cross the y-axis? That's my starting point. It's 0. And the coordinate is 0, 0. The slope, we could do rise over run. So I start at 0, I go up to 80, and then I go to the right. So if I look, it's a positive line. I went up 80 from 0 to 80, and then from 0 to 2, I went 2 to the right. So now I substitute. My rise was 80, my run was 2, reduced to 40 over 1, which equals 40. So my m is 40. Now, there was an alternate way you could do this if you didn't remember to do rise over run, but you got it confused with the intervals. We can use the slope formula, and you just pick two coordinate points off the graph. So I'm going to use m equals y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. This is an alternate method. I'm going to use this point, which is 280. And I'm going to use this point, which is 160. You can use other points, but I'm picking these. x1, y1, x2, y2. I'm going to substitute in the formula 160 minus 80 over 4 minus 2. You get 80 over 2, which equals 40. So my slope is 40. I did it right. So now we're going to write its equation. That's what they asked in the direction. Write the equation of this line. Y equals, my m is 40, and my b is 0. You write it as y equals 40x, or some students can see it better as 40x plus 0. When you have b as 0, this is a direct variation. The next one, it said, find the slope and the y-intercept of the linear function below. Your slope is m, your y is your b. This is not in y equals mx plus b. That's what it has to be in. So I have to rearrange it. I need to get the y alone, so my first step is I'm going to subtract the 3x on each side. So now I get 6y equals negative 3x plus 18. A common misconception, students like to combine the negative 3x and the 18. You can't because they're unlike terms. Negative 3 has a variable, the 18 doesn't. It's a constant. Now I have to isolate the y. I divide every element or every piece of this equation by 6. So now I get y equals negative 3, 6 can be reduced to negative 1/2 x, and 18 divided by 6 is 3. So now I can identify my m is equal to negative 1/2, and my b is 3. Now it says to write, if a line contains the points listed, find the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. Well, I have all these coordinates. There are two things for slope-intercept, which is y equals mx plus b. You need the slope, and you need your b. Well, first we're going to find the slope. We have two sets of points we need to pick. I'm going to pick the ones that are positive. They're easier than having the negatives, but you could pick these if you want. I'm going to label this x1, y1, x2, y2. So my slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to put in 10 minus 8 over 3 minus 1. 10 minus 8 is 2, 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 over 2 gives you a slope of 1. So right now I know my m is equal to 1. Now we have to write the b, but you also have to write the equation in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So I don't know what the starting point is, so this is where we have to use point-slope form. Which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Well, I know my slope is 1, and I'm going to use the x1, y1. Y minus y1 is 8 equals, my slope is 1, open your parentheses, x minus my x1 is 1. Y minus 8, you have to do the distributive property here. 1 times x is x. 1 times a negative 1, positive times a negative is a negative. Going to isolate the y, so we're going to add 8 on each side. And we get y equals x plus 7. Negative 1 plus 8 is 7. Here's your equation. Y equals x plus 7. It's in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. And my b I could write down. I like to write it down to show I can identify. Okay, this next one, they want us to look at this and make an interpretation. John left his home and walked 3 blocks to school as shown in the accompanying diagram. As time is increasing, so is the distance. At interval, which interval represents when John walked the fastest rate? Well, you look at the steepness of a line. A fastest rate means a steeper line. So if I look at A, from 0 to A, it's going upward, it's increasing. But then A to B, it looks a little bit steeper. So let me mark that. So that means he was walking a little bit quicker. And then we have B to C as a horizontal line. Means not really anything's happening. Time is passing, but he's not increasing any distance. And then we have C to D. So let's say C to D. Let's put a little line on that. Okay. I think this is where he was moving the quickest. It's steeper. So it's interval A to B. So when it was he moving the quickest, A to B. Interval A to B. Right interval. Now, it says, which interval did he take a break? That means time is passing, but the distance is not changing. It's not going up. So it's B to C. Now it says to us, find the equation in slope-intercept form. The graph below models the cost of holding a banquet at a tea room restaurant. You have number of hours, and you have the fee in dollars. Slope-intercept is y equals mx plus b. Well, your b is the easiest. That's your starting point. Your y-intercept is your starting point. So I like to write my m and my b. My B is my starting point, so you look at the graph. Where does it start? On the y-axis. And there it is. It's 150. So my starting point, my B, is 150. Now we need the slope. And the slope, because it's a graph, we could do rise over run. So I'm going to write that down for myself. You could do 2 points, but it's easy to do rise over run. Well, I could see I went up and over. So from 150 to 180, I went up 30. And from 0 to 1, I went 1 to the right. So my rise is 30 over 1, which is 30. So my slope is 30. But if you don't remember rise over run, you could take 2 points. I'm going to take this point here and this point here. So that's 3, 240, and 4, 270. Now I'm going to use the slope formula. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Label these x1, y1, x2, y2. So now you do 10. Oh, sorry, wrong answer. Let me erase that right there. Okay, we're making a different color ink for ourselves. Here we go. Y2 is 270. Y1, the one there, is 240. X2 is 4, X1 is 3. 270 minus 240 gives you 30 over 1, which is 30. So yes, I did calculate the right slope. Now I have to put it in y equals mx plus b. Y equals 30x, my starting point, which is my b, 150, plus 150, and there's your answer. Identify the correlation of each scatter plot. Is it positive or negative, linear, nonlinear, strong, weak? Well, this one, if you draw a trend line, it's not going up and down, it's just a constant, and it's linear. B, it's scattered all over the place, like in science, gas molecules. There's no correlation here, and there is no, it's not weak, it's not strong, it's not straight, that you can't draw a trend line. The next one, going from left to right, it's decreasing, so you try to draw a line, trend line through the center of the data. Okay? So this is negative. It's a straight line, so it's linear. And it has a strong correlation because the dots are very close to the trend line. The next one, from left to right, it's increasing. Try to draw a nice trend line through the center. It's positive. It's a straight line. And this is weak because the dots are not very close to the trend line. Does the scatter plot show below have an outlier or an outlier? An outlier is a point that is not near the trend line, it's way over, and yes, it does. Yes, it does, and you circle it. There it is. Okay, write a relation that is a function. A function is when the domain, your x values, do not repeat. So, I'm going to make one up. So if you look, our domain, which is our x values, I'm just going to label everything so you could see it better. So I like to do this. I'm going to do x, y, x, y, x, y, x, y. Or another strategy I use if you have difficulty, I like to highlight. So I'm going to highlight all my x's in yellow. And I'm going to do my range, which is my y's. I'm going to put in another color. I'll put them in blue. So I have to check to see that my domain, which is yellow, my x values do not repeat. And that would be a function. So I have 4, 5, 7, and 9. That is a function because the x values or the domain does not repeat. Write a relation that is not a function. A relation is just sets of coordinate pairs. But not a function. So here we go. I'm going to do 4, 3, 4, 6, 5, 6, 7, 12. This is a relation because my x repeats, but I'm going to highlight so you could see better. I like my x values. Okay. So my domain repeats. I'm going to label them so you could see it better. You have x, y, x, y, x, y, x, y. This is a relation. The domain repeats. Next question. The scatter plot below can be used to find the approximate rate at which water flows through a garden hose. The line of best fit for the scatter plot can be described by the equation y equals 4/5 x. If the rate in gallons per minute continues, approximately how many gallons of water will flow from the hose in 45 minutes? So if you look at your x-axis, that represents minutes. You can go up to 45 minutes, but as you go up to y, it doesn't extend. So this is when you have to substitute the 45 into the formula or the equation. Y equals 4/5 x. So now I do y equals 4/5 times 45, and y gives you 36. So that is the answer. It would be at 36 gallons. Next one. The table below represents the total cost as a function of a number of days it costs for a popular cable television package. What is the rate of change? That's your slope. I have a table, so we have to use the slope formula. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I label, this is my x1, y1, x2, y2. Substitute in the formula, 15 minus 10 over 3 minus 2. 15 minus 10 is 5, 3 minus 2 is 1, so my slope or rate of change is 5. What is your initial value? That's your starting point or your B. So you have to use point slope form. To find the B, you have to use point slope form. So here we go. We go y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now let me change the color ink so you could see it better. Okay, let's go into green. Here we go. So I'm going to use the first set of points, 210, because that's x1, y1, and my slope is 5. Y minus 10 equals, my slope is 5, and x minus x1 is 2. y minus 10 equals 5x minus 10. If I add 10 to each side, I get y equals 5x. The b is 0. So what is the initial value? 0. And our last question is, identify if each relation is a function or not a function. In a function, the domain or x values do not repeat. So let's look at our first set. This is a function because the domain x values do not repeat. Domain, write that down for yourself. Look at the second set. The second set, I have 2, 4, 6, and 8. Again, this is a function because the domain does not repeat all the x values. So I'm just going to circle so you could see function. The next one is also a function. You have -2, -1, 0, 1. This is a function. If you look at the x values. Now, the misconception is students will see -1 and 1 and say, oh, the ones repeat. No, they do not. A -1 is different from a 1. And our last one, which is choice D, we look at this. This is not a function because your domain does repeat. The 1s repeat and the 2s repeat. Hope this is a clear and understanding review. Good luck.